mu defaluwaat ba jàpp gën leen a fab gën leen a neex ni ñëw naa nag dugg naa ci biir arène bi ku ma ñam seet ku ma mos seet laal leen ma seet ngeen xam ne wute naag mayonnaise yi cay la ba mayonnaise kuy xew jëlal la ba mayonnaise ku bëggalu neex jëlal la ba mayonnaise cay boo ko mosee boo ko ñamee di nga xam ne lu la yaay ministère Moussa wax rek dëgg la ci la ba.
It's 2200 hours in Banjul, and from DRCS, this is the news. First, our headlines. President Jammeh identifies double taxation as the stumbling block hindering the implementation of the many trade and investment agreements between the Gambia and Qatar. Nomination fever grips the electorate as ruling party candidates submit their nomination papers to IEC officials across the country. Rescue teams from around the world continue to jet into the Congolese city of Brazzaville to offer much-needed assistance, but explosive experts say unexploded ordinances still pose a threat. And reports emanating from Syria speak of the defection of the country's deputy oil minister. These and other stories coming here this hour. My name is Famra Fofana. We thank you for joining us. The President, His Excellency Sir Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh, has attributed the non-implementation of the many trade and investment agreements between the Gambia and Qatar to hitches in double taxation deals. The Gambian leader, who returned to Banjul in the early hours of Thursday following a 3-day working visit to Doha, described the Gulf state as one of the biggest investors in Africa. Professor Jammeh also told reporters that the massive crop failure from last year's rainy season also formed the reasons for a trip he considered to be one of his best. Here's an excerpt from President Jammeh's interview with the members of the press shortly after his arrival from Doha.
First of all, I want to thank the Almighty Allah for this trip. This trip is seen as the final trip. We have been signing agreements over the years, and you would have realized that not much has been taking place in terms of investment on their side or interaction in terms of trade and other activities. All what we were doing were diplomatic activities with them, and of course bilateral relations at the political and administrative level. Qatar, I think to better put it, is like if you are a Gambian and you are in Qatar, you are in your second home, because this is the way even Gambians there, Gambian students and workers there are treated. Now, we've signed so many agreements and nothing has been implemented, because there was an agreement that for us was signed about 3 years ago when Bajo was the, I think 3-4 years ago, when Bajo was the ambassador there. Unfortunately, they said they didn't see the agreement, despite the fact that we have a copy of it at the embassy. And that was, that agreement is the key. Without that, there is no way they can invest in any country. And you have realized that today Qatar is one of the biggest investors in sub-Saharan, in fact in Africa. They have more than $2 billion investment in Morocco, almost $500 million investment in Mauritania. In all our neighborhood, maybe except for the Gambia and Guinea-Bissau, they have invested heavily. But the hitch was that there was, before they invest in any country, there must be an agreement on double taxation. And for, as far as our side is concerned, it was signed, I think 4 years ago. And for them, it was signed and they signed too. But for some strange reason, they said it was not signed. So this was the one I went to make sure that we finalized it, because that opens the way for them to come and invest in the Gambia. But also more importantly, you would have realized that when you are in need, you go to your best friends. Last year's rainfall was a disaster. It was no fault of mine or the fault of the government or the fault of any Gambian or the farmers. Allah decided that that is the way, the type of rainfall He was going to give us. But everything that I see that is negative is a challenge. Allah is testing us. But I also cannot sit around and see Gambians suffer. So when you are in dire need of something, you have to go to your friend. And that is also one reason why I went to Qatar. By Monday, we are going to have an emergency cabinet meeting to address the issue of the food shortage and the food crisis. Because I was made to understand that the price of meat has jumped to, I think, 150 for I think, steak, and 111 for meat and bone. Now, this cannot be attributed to the rainfall. The owners of this cattle are Gambians. Unfortunately, those who sell the meat to us are not Gambians. And this is where the problem is. But I think when some of you who live around here, we know that today I'm the biggest livestock owner in the country. I'm going to address that issue permanently. Now, with regards to this food shortage and the bad harvest, we are also going to address that, because I would rather die than see Gambian staff. And that is why when you are in dire strait, I normally don't beg for food. But of course, when you're hard pressed by circumstances like that, it is better to beg than see your people starve. And that is why when you are begging, also know whom you are going to beg. Beg your brother. And that's why we went to Qatar also.
Well, that interview will be aired immediately after the news. The President, His Excellency Sir Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh, ended his 3-day working visit to the state of Qatar with the signing of an agreement on double taxation and 2 memoranda of understanding, seeking to broaden the scope of cooperation between Banjul and Doha. The signing ceremony, presided over by President Jammeh and the Emir of the state of Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Hamid bin Khalifa Al Thani, paved the way for the provision of support and training to Gambians in various sectors as well as investment. Abdunjai has the details.
President Jammeh arrived in Doha, the state of Qatar, on the latest round of visits to bolster the gains of this special relationship. His last visit to the state was in 2010, during which he negotiated and sealed a labor agreement as means of regulating the hiring of Gambian workers in Qatar. But other agreements were also negotiated as part of the labor deal. And at the Emirate Diwan, President Jammeh and His Highness Sheikh Hamad Khalifa Al Thani presided over their signing after closed-door talks bordering on existing relations between Doha and Banjul. The first one is an agreement to exempt Qatari investments in the Gambia from double taxation. The document, according to the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mamboure Ndiaye, calls for greater flexibility and will boost investor confidence.
What the double taxation does is to open up windows and roads for investment coming from Qatar or from the Gambia to Qatar. Meaning, if you have a major public or multinational coming from Qatar and being taxed in Qatar, coming to the Gambia, having offices and employing more Gambians, that doesn't necessarily mean that the same sector or the same company will be taxed double. The other option is the company itself will evaluate the tax regimes between the two countries, and the preferred one, this is the flexibility that will be exercised, that you will decide which state that you're going to pay the tax. And as far as we are concerned, in the Gambia, our transaction cost is cheaper, and the other variables, the conducive environment, we know that the companies that are coming will take the preferred option of paying taxes in the Gambia.
A memorandum of understanding on tourism cooperation between the respective governments, as well as that of the Ministries of Energy and Industry of the State of Qatar and Petroleum of the Gambia, dealing mainly with exploration, have also been signed.
We started negotiating for this agreement on MOU since 2010 during His Excellency the President's state visit, which I was part of, and we submitted a draft agreement to my counterpart here in Qatar. And since then we have been communicating with the Qatar Petroleum in terms of looking at the details of the agreement. And alhamdulillah, this time round we were able to agree on the fine points of the agreement, and which culminated in the signing of the agreement today. So it's a great day for